Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Carlo with 4GQ TV. You can see the link below. And with me today, I have a very special guest, and we'll get into him in just a moment. Paris with us from the Marvel Facebook Cinematic Group, the official one that's out there. So thank you for being with us. And today, our special guest is, and I hope I say your first name correctly, Geof Isherwood.
Yeah, just call me Jeff.
All right, awesome.
Or my nickname, El Jefe.
Nice.
Spelled almost the same.
So Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I've now been in the illustration business and starting mostly with comics. Now, 38 years ago is when I started at Marvel full time. And I started at, I didn't just wander in and they threw a job at me. Of course, it was many years of drawing practice, and I decided when I was 10 that I wanted to draw comics because I saw that comics, there were credits and really fun names like Stan the Man, Lee, and Jazzy Johnny Romita, and these all these kind of things, Gene the Dean Colin, and all this rascally Roy Thomas. So I thought, this sounds like a fun bunch, and hey, if I can get a job drawing all the time as a regular job, I can stay home, because I saw a picture of Charles Schultz's studio in his house in Minnesota. I said, "Oof, I don't have to go somewhere to work. I can stay home, and then I can draw, because then I don't have to do some other stupid job like everybody else gets stuck doing. I can do art." So that 10-year-old mindset kind of carried over, and I just stuck to it. I had a natural, now I don't know where it came from, but an interest in figure drawing and human anatomy and understanding how all that works. And later on, when I got into working on some comic book stories, I discovered I loved the storytelling medium as well. Instead of just doing posters or something like, painting type things, single illustrations, I liked the idea of the sequential art. So I kept at it. And first dropped by Marvel when I was 16 years old. Our family was returning home from vacation. We had moved to Montreal and Quebec and we're vacationing in Maryland, where I pretty much grew up when I was little, on the Eastern Shore. And so while my family was driving around the block for 20 minutes, I went up to Marvel at 16, but it was very nice. That was back in the days when you could see people, So I saw the receptionist and, who would you like to, what are you here for? "Oh, I have a portfolio, I have some art." "Just a minute, I'll be right with you." And then I come over, and then I met Marie Severin and Dave Cockrum, which was terrific, and they were very nice. And of course, I was nowhere near ready, but they were very, very helpful and supportive. And, maybe they saw something that was perhaps down the road. So anyway, it was just through submissions every year or two. And then when I did get a couple of small jobs in 1982, did not lead to anything else. And so in the spring of 83, when I was 22, I graduated from universities and got a fine arts degree, and then just went to New York, stayed on Long Island with an aunt of mine at her house, so I could come and go out in and out of the city from Uniondale easily. And at first, and of course, I went looking for work. Nothing at Marvel, nothing at DC. I saw a bunch of editors, and I thought, wait a minute, there's this thing, Red Circle. What's that? Archie Comics. Yeah. So I went up there, and Rich Buckler was doing that at the time. And so he said right away, "Sure, I got some pages of the Mighty Crusaders that are half pencil. Here, you finish penciling. And then the next day, come over down to my place on Staten Island, and we'll just keep working into the night." And so, I wound up working for him for 3 days, and then got a call from Ralph Macchio at Marvel saying, "Jeff, I got a Daredevil fill-in. You want to do it? Can you come in and do this?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, sure. I'll be right over, But that was fascinating, because as soon as that hit, for as much as I'd worked to try and get in and get a good job, and pretty much had to teach myself, because I didn't really get much at university. They were complaining that my anatomy was better than the professors, so I wasn't getting much help there. All of a sudden, I realized this is the real thing. this is the major leagues now. I got to play. It's like you got to play ball. You're going out and as a rookie out there in Yankee Stadium or something, and you're facing the Red Sox, and you better sink or swim. You got like a game to make it happen. Right. I had to like draw twice as well as ever, but it worked. Ralph liked the story, and he gave me more. And then from then on, I was just getting more and more calls for work. So I was quite steadily employed for most of the time. You can run through a list of titles if you like, but anyway, at the end of the 90s, I was working on Conan, and that's when Marvel dropped the license for Conan, and before Dark Horse didn't pick it up for 3 years. But that was pretty much it for me, because the editorial staff, the whole industry had shrunk quite a bit at that point, as you know. And so I was able back in Montreal to I was looking around, what am I going to do? Oh, storyboards. That's like comics. I can do that, right? What did I know? So of all things, the movie Battlefield Earth, John Travolta's baby, was filming in Montreal. It was like, it was considered one of the worst movies in the last 50 years or something. However, that being said, it took me a couple of days. I was able to get a hold of to find the production, and got an interview with the production designer for a concept art job, of all things. So, and that person was Patrick Tatopoulos, who had done Independence Day and had done the revised Godzilla. So he was a pretty hot commodity as a designer. And I had managed to latch on as the seventh person being interviewed, because he was seeing 3 one day and 3 the next, and they tacked me onto the end. Get to the end, and he's a Greek name, French fellow, lives in California, and long hair, and he's always this in his hair, and he's like, yeah, I love you comic book guys, you can draw anything, I love to draw myself. And here's a production designer who can draw, he's good. But I got too much to do, I need somebody to help me, so you got the job. So I was there for 3 months. Bang, as soon as that happened, every other movie job I've gotten, TV job, and there have been over 100 in the last 20 years or so, has always been referring, it connects back to that very first job. I haven't even had to go looking. People just call me, and I just got one last week for a show in Montreal that's coming. 2 things going on in Montreal now I'm not supposed to talk about. So.
Awesome. Well, we'll wait for those to come out. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, I wasn't going to bring up Battlefield Earth. I saw it. I was like, it's technically one of the worst movies ever. Let's not. Well, since you brought it up,
yeah.
But the good thing is that I was like, yeah, you did storyboard stuff for us. So I mean, you did your job, and then I seen it kept sort of like as you were explaining, it catapulted you to more opportunities, even though it was a terrible movie by well, critically acclaimed folks out there. I know some people out there probably like it, but that's awesome how you were able to.
But I could, and as I was doing it, right, I went on the set. I mean, I guess I can tell you this now, but Roger Christian was the director, and he had been a second unit on Star Wars. So it's like, however, Travolta and Jonathan Crane, the producer, were into the Scientology thing, right? They were trying to pull Roger into that. And Roger's he's a British fellow, very easygoing, mild-mannered sort, not your, director barking orders like you see in cartoons or anything.
Right.
And so I was watching one scene on with Travolta and Forrest Whitaker, were the two in there in the main ship and yakking to each other or whatever. And they would do a take, change the camera angle, reshoot the same dialogue the way they do it. But at the end of every scene, when Roger would yell cut, they didn't look at him. They looked at Travolta and 3 of these producers to think, was that good? And I thought, I don't know anything about movie making. I haven't done it before, but if they're not looking at the director to see if he liked it, and they're looking somewhere else, this is a bad sign. So, but needless to say, back in the art department, met some terrific people. Met this one young fellow who showed me how to do Photoshop, which I hadn't done at all. Patrick told me a lot of really good information on how to do design work for films. from comics. Like it's a different world. Some drawing may seem similar. It's a different thing. Storyboarding I also picked up later on, but yeah. And then later on, some of the same people from that movie were working on the X-Men movies that I worked on.
Yeah,
Flash
Days
forward
of
to that,
Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse. Yeah, those are pretty big blockbuster movies, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and those ones, and I thought, oh, good, a real superhero movie that's right up my alley, And so in the art department, I'm telling people, it's not science fiction, it's not action adventure. Superhero is a different animal. You have to think and just, I'm trying to get into their minds. It's not the same, there's more. It's a bigger world. It's exaggerated. That's the whole point. As Bob Layton once told me, think of superhero comics like opera, the grand gesture, the crazy big makeup and the huge sets and the big sound. It's like superheroes are life magnified like that. And I thought that was a very good analogy he made. So I got that apart. And with that one, I did both storyboards and concept work. In fact, the irony is Bryan Singer directing didn't want anybody to have a really good version of the script. And Ike was working on it while they were filming, even not just pre-production. In fact, for him, the script changed, hourly, not daily. He would get things set up and he would see it. So he's a tinkerer. He was forever fiddling around with trying to make it better. And at one point, at first I was having pretty solid meetings with a couple of people about, what's going on. The second unit or stunt people, I was working with them. And then it's like, we're filming. Here's a couple of pages of script. Just go draw this. And somebody, one time he says, I need all the scenes with Quicksilver. Just storyboard them. Here, like, make it up. It was almost like make it up, And so those were the scene. And then ultimately it's like, yeah, he's fighting these guys, the cops in this kitchen scene. But we're going to slow it down to slow motion. So draw that. So I wound up storyboarding that famous scene where he's running it, but I didn't have the kitchen as a circular room like in 2001. But a lot of the actions were stuff that I drew, and I think, okay, he shoots a gun at somebody. The bullet's coming, so he comes over and he goes, move it there, Or the guy's about to hit somebody and just move the fist here so when, follows through and punches himself. All this stuff, I was drawing this going, this is great. This is going to be fun. And then when I saw the movie and what he did with it, what he turned it into was amazing. And it shows you storyboards, unlike a comic where that's the finished product, storyboards are just a step in the creative process. That's really what it is.
Nice.
And even just briefly, the process of doing comics and film is kind of backwards from each other. In comics, you lay out your page, you set up all your storytelling, and then you finish and you make pretty pictures out of the panels. In other words, you do all your editing first, right? Then you draw it. In film, you shoot all these scenes, you get all that, and then you have this big mass of material and you take bits and pieces. Then you edit it after the fact, and that's when you make the movie. So the process of the two is actually backwards from each other. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm just blown away by what you said, because it's like you went from, doing comics to becoming a storyboard visual kind of artist within the movie industry. And it's a really neat jump on how you did that. And it's just amazing. And I got to say, congratulations, man, because that is some type of recognition. And it's crazy how you told us one day you're working for Red Circle, and then 3 days later, you're finally got your, the job at Marvel as a fill-in for Daredevil. So really cool stuff. And I gotta ask you, man, the Juggernaut is my favorite supervillain, and I see him on one of the covers you did for Doctor Strange, and I love the Juggernaut. So what did you think about drawing the Juggernaut, or any feelings towards the Juggernaut when you took that pencil and inked that guy?
Oh, well, I thought it was great fun because Roy Thomas had been given the job of writing Doctor Strange as I was drawing it for that period of time. And as we had a short discussion at one point, let's bring in some other characters, villains, whatever from the Marvel universe. Make it more of a fun story rather than a niche thing so much. And of course, he's excellent with that. So, of course, Juggernaut having the Crimson Band of Satorak to power him, which is one of the mystical villain races of people that Doctor Strange has to deal with from this alternate dimension. He turned out to be a natural fit. And just mention one thing offhand is I was also drawing the covers for most of those issues as well. And you get paid more, that's all right. But it was fun, it's like, to me, it always made sense. Like I wanted to make a cover drawing that has something to do with the story inside, not just some. And also, if it's the same artist, then the kid who picks it up goes, "Oh, it's the same guy." It doesn't look really different. A lot of times, you look at a cover, it looks fantastic, and you turn to page one and go, "What happened?" Oh, it's a disappointment. But that one, even I disappointed myself because I drew it first, and I featured Juggy at the top, but it was okay, but he was too thin. His arms weren't, massive. So I drew it again. I inked it. I finished it. I don't like it. So I drew it. I edited myself. I rejected my own cover and had time to draw another version, which is the one that has seen print. And somewhere out in the world, somebody owns the original. I'm not sure who has it now.
Nice. Yeah, you had an incredible run with Doctor Strange for on the Marvel Comics verse that you did. It seems like it was at least like 30. I don't know. It's a lot. It could be even more.
That's one of the. Well, okay. when I started at Marvel, I went there primarily. Well, I went to Marvel and DC, of course, but I wanted to draw Conan the Barbarian, more than like a lot of artists. So that's why I went there. But when Doctor Strange was out of Mike Rockwitz's office, came available, I said, "Can I draw Doctor Strange?" It's one of the titles I requested. It didn't usually happen. Pretty much everything else I got asked to do, besides Conan and Doctor Strange, they said, "How you want to ink the nom?" "Yeah, Michael Golden." "Oh, in fact, he's leaving the book." It's this new guy, Wayne Van Sant. "Who's that?" And I'm looking at it, it says Ralph. And then so Larry was asking me if I could, redraw a lot of the figures. He says his layouts and technical stuff is good, but his figure drawing is a little, so can you fix that? So I did that for a couple of years, and then moved on to, I think it was Conan the Barbarian inking. So again, I wasn't penciling a lot for a while. And then after that, then we got to the Doctor Strange, and when that came available, and that was great. And then they asked if I could draw Namor. I think Jay Lee was finishing his run, and well, okay, I'll do Namor. So also wound up working at doing Suicide Squad for DC, which I was not really familiar with at the time, but it turned out to be a great run also with John Ostrander and the late Kim Yale.
Nice. How surprised are you to see where the comics that you've all have drawn now they're in the movie and film and TVs? Like, how surprised are you about the popularity of these characters? Now they're sort of larger than life right now. Doctor Strange, all the X-Men, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios, all the stuff they got going on with Loki, the entire Infinity War saga, all the things they put together in this continuous stories. Even DC with Batman, Justice League, and stuff like that. How surprised are you to see the success of these now comics? And they did, cartoons and stuff, but they weren't nearly as successful as they are now. Right?
Well, of course, with visual effects, they can match, especially in the movies. They can make them look like pretty much as we would imagine because when we're drawing the comics, I always think live action. I'm not really outside of Bugs Bunny and stuff. I'm not an animation person. I'm live action. That's kind of where my thinking goes, and it's why I went into doing realistic type drawing that you have in Marvel and DC and stuff and superhero comics. That's where my mindset is. So to see it on screen is tremendous. Of course, creatively, and that I think how characters are done somewhat differently. To me, I see it as the film version, the cinematic version, as opposed to the comics version, it's a sort of a parallel universe of the same characters. People have a hard time figuring out that you can't translate one medium directly into another. It doesn't work too well. You have to find another way to adapt the medium. And I did. It was not more recently, or when the film of this X-Men, but for a very short period of time, a couple of weeks, Bryan Singer was in Montreal to direct another film that wound up going somewhere else. But I did do a couple of storyboards for him back. That was 2002 or 3, something like that. Anyways, and so of course I was talking about the X-Men films with him, and he was saying, yeah, it was his effort and was since to try and make costuming as close to the comics as possible. He said, but we tried the yellow costume with the X-Men. It said it just didn't work. And then the leather was kind of heavy and sticky, and it's like trying to match, it just wasn't the same. So nevertheless, the way they worked it out is, and it has worked out in the last what 10 years or 10 or 12 years now. It's come a long way, and it's worked really well. Yeah. I think I've watched Doctor Strange about 6 times now or something like that, and it was great. It was a big surprise to be invited out to the premiere back in 2016, I think it was, and it was a big surprise to go there. And then afterwards, we got to meet Scott Derrickson briefly and Benedict Cumberbatch as well. And nice. That was at the party afterwards we were invited to, which is also very nice of them to have done. And so trying to figure out why was I given the special thanks? Well, in I think it was issue 45, Roy and I had retold the origin as Doctor Strange faces death. And one of the scenes was the car crash where he breaks his hands, right? And then there are also a couple other things with the nurse in the story, but in fact it's a different character in the movie. And but other little bits and pieces here and there that I noticed he could have, because Scott had read a lot of the comics and showed a lot of them to Benedict as well. Mm-hmm. Benedict wasn't really familiar with the character at first, but they went through a lot of comic material. There were those 2 scenes, and there's also the part we loved in the movie was the fact that the cloak has a mind of its own. It's alive, right? And right. There was a scene in issues 57 and 8, I believe, of Doctor Strange that I wrote myself. At one point, Roy was leaving, and he said, well, Roy's not going to be writing the book. I said, can I write one? Sure. Send us a story, think of something. Okay, so I did that. Anyway, I had brought in Berthona, again, another one of these, older characters back from forget who had drawn that one. But anyways, nevertheless, I thought I wanted to, expand the universe a little bit, and so I wrote a few issues of the book. Anyways, there was one scene where he was being, bear hugged by this guy, and he gets the cloak to spin them around like a whirlwind, and it flings the guy off. And I'm thinking, maybe Derrickson saw this and said, "Yeah, that cloak kind of comes to life. I think we could do that in the movie." So, and the humor parts, there's so much about the movie we love. And to me, you're talking about the popularity. I think Strange is a great introduction to the Marvel universe for people who weren't used to superheroes, because he's outside. He's a little left of center of that whole thing. And so, it brings them into the universe, and then they kind of understand a lot more of how the rest of it works. And of course, nowadays, so many tens of millions of people have seen the movies and all that, never really read the comics. Yeah. So it's the movie versions everybody knows. That's the fascinating part.
Yeah. That's why we, myself and Carla, are looking out, trying to find some more of the comic writers, right? Get a chance to talk to you folks, because a lot of the source material came from people like yourself, and to see it sort of when we read, we're comic readers, and to see some of the stuff translate from the comics into the film, we're like, yeah, that's exactly where they got it from, right? So
I was really close with Shang-Chi too.
Nice.
Because Kim Nguyen is a director in Montreal, of a Vietnamese descent background, and so when they were looking for the director for Shang-Chi, they asked around a bunch of younger Asian background directors, right? Mm-hmm. They eventually took the fellow from Maui. It's funny, as we have vacationed there in the past, and so some of our friends there know this guy. They said, "We went to high school with the guy directing it." So I said, "Oh, I can't really be angry with the fact that the guy I worked for didn't get the job." But what he did was, what I did for him was, again, talked with Kim a bit, and he gave me 3 different scenes that he wanted me to do storyboards for his lookbook for his pitch. Mm-hmm. And so it was down to him and this other person, the ultimate director of the show. And I had done a scene with there's a container ship where he fights off a bunch of people, and then then I say, well, I think he should be fighting Razor Fist in this other scene. Who's that? Oh, Razor Fist is a great villain. Of course, now he's in the movie too, right? I've seen in the trailer. Go, yeah, they figured that one out. You gotta have him. So anyway, so I drew those up, and he put them in the lookbook, and then he said, I've tried to remember how he put it, but he said, I didn't get the job, but when they saw your storyboards, and it gave them pause. They hesitated and thought, oh, we could do this, well, and then they kind of went with the other guy. So if that had happened, I was ready to sit down, and he was ready to have me sit down, and we were going to work out the entire movie, with the script they had, right? I was going to go stop everything I'm doing. I'm going to go work with him. So that didn't come across, didn't happen, or not yet. And he may be in line down the road for something else. We don't know, but if something comes up, then I'm certainly going to jump.
Fingers crossed.
Because I'm ready. I'm ready. I tell you.
Man, that would be really awesome to see you get involved in another Marvel project. Huge fan, and I'm a huge fan of your work. Just looking at the Doctor Strange stuff that you worked on, and the character of the Juggernaut that you drew in that cover. I used to try to recreate that exact Juggernaut look, but I could never do it because I always messed up on the muscles and then the arm length, so it looked kind of like a little bit off, like he was bulky and then real skinny at the end of his arm. But I admire your work so much.
Thank you very much. It's I don't know, I feel like I'm a technician now. I've learned all this stuff. I've been teaching it at Algonquin College here in Ottawa, and we have a program called Illustration and Concept Art, so it fits right into my roundhouse, as it were, my wheelhouse. But that has helped me do is, I learned some modern stuff from the kids, right? Well, the kids, they're like 20 and older. Some are kids, but it's forced me to analyze a lot about the entire drawing process, about how anatomy works, how it's put together, how you can show somebody, you see it's fascinating. You've seen diagrams of anatomical drawings of muscles and tendons and all this, and you see, but how do you relate that? You can learn the muscles and where everything goes and how it works. How do you relate that to somebody on the outside where all you see is the skin, right? It's a big jump. It's a big step to take. So I go through the process of pointing out how you can show where the skeleton shows, even like this. This is the ulna, This is the ulna, the bone that connects down to here. And the muscle runs right along this ridge, for example. So when you see the bumps here, you see that this is the humerus, the two on either side, that's the upper arm bone. So if you understand skeletally how the body's put together, and you just lay everything else on top, and you can just literally construct the entire figure when you know it. So that just makes the drawing process more possible and easier, especially for difficult poses. Because of, you know, a lot of students or whatever, people will be able to draw something basic and straightforward, but as soon as you get into the difficult stuff, you have to really understand how it works mechanically and three-dimensionally. And of course, you can always get reference. That's always good. And then you realize drawing people. One point was if you can draw people and you can draw in perspective, then you can draw anything, because those are the two most difficult things to sort out. Once you get that part, and because everyone is so perceptive that, and that's something Larry Hama pointed out to me really early. That was fascinating when he was the one that showed me first some really good storytelling. Some information on that, on a cull story. The first tour I did for him was an 8-page cull story, and he gave this again. I'd been working at Marvel for about a year, and so I went to him, and then we bantered a bit, and then he said, "Well, I've got this 8-page cull story. Draw this and come back in a week." So I went and drew that, and they came back and it says, "It's all wrong."
Ooh.
Follows, no. Says, "What here?" So he takes out tracing paper and he laid it on every page, and he relaid out the story, and he told me exactly what he was doing. Why did he place this one there? What was the thing with depth, framing, eye flow out around the page, objects pointing to focus the eye on what you want people to look at, all of this stuff. And one of the things that always struck me, he says, when you're drawing the character, you are the actor. So you're not just drawing Captain America standing over there. You are him holding the shield, throwing the punch. It's like, if it's you doing it, how does it feel to be doing that yourself? And he's about to slug the Juggernaut. And if you're the Juggernaut, you are the Juggernaut. And you're coming in with this giant fist and right? And the big band, you're ready to crush that shield into tinfoil like a gum wrapper. You have to become every character you draw all the time. That's how you get inside the story. That's how you become all the actors. And that's how you relate to the reader, because you put yourself in there. And then if you get excited and you can draw that, then they will pick it up too. If you're bored, it's like, oh God, I got to draw this stupid panel, and this other guy, I hate drawing Aunt May. It's just some old bag, Well, right. It's going to look boring, and your reader's going to go, this is crap. Right. Whoever they got to draw Spider-Man, he's an idiot. Dump it. I'm never buying Spider-Man again. I love Aunt May, and he can't draw Aunt May. Get rid of him. Snap decisions. That's what happens. And nowadays, comics doesn't rule like it used to. There's, video games have taken over too, and the comics world, it's a tough game to make that kind of connection and gain that audience anymore. So it's a tough world, tough world for comics. You gotta get in there and you give it everything, just like anything else. Like, Canadians better play well tonight. That's all I can say.
Right. Well, it's good that both Marvel and DC have their like Marvel has Marvel Unlimited, and DC has I can't recall the service where you can go back and read comics. I think there's Comicsology also where they're selling comics and stuff. So I'm just happy at least they have these sort of services for folks out there.
Well, that's the thing that I think the amount of material is more than ever. Somebody said, there's like 500 different titles out running at any given time, but again, you have to get young people aware, and if it's good material, they just want more. And it's always the case. So that's our job, is to be the creative people to keep them interested.
Jeffrey, I don't know if you know this, but so what Batman did they had to team up with Fortnite because they know kids are playing Fortnite. So they did this Batman and Fortnite crossover, and by reading the comic, you gain skins inside Fortnite, like Harley Quinn's hammer and stuff like that. So you are 100% correct, is that they're trying to think of ideas on how to bring in younger generations, and they're crossing it into very popular video games now.
That's yeah, kind of has to be done. Every 5-10 years, and it happens fast. Have to keep up with the times and keep up with what's going to connect with young people, because they still look to these outlandish characters and all to spur their own imaginations, and they like to talk about and pretend to be them, the whole bit. It's still there. That hasn't gone away. It's just the how you get it across to people. And then the other side is then for artists to keep the good ones employed at a decent enough rate, because a lot of people have used comics as a stepping stone onto other careers. I mean, I was out of comics not by choice. I would have, and I still do comics now. I'm still working on things, but I would have been happy to keep doing it indefinitely. And so, but it just so happened I had to kind of think fast and expand my horizons, and that worked out really well. But just based on where I was living and the whole thing. So yeah, it's you can't really just try and live in the past, say, oh well, we wish it was back in 1965 or something. Like, it isn't.
Right. Yeah. It's good to see the comic artists out there. That I see, the Alex Rosses of the world, Mark Brooks, and the list goes on. They're out there drawing. They're out there, promoting their artwork, and seeing everyone do that in the comic industry is just great to see. And that's sort of, they're all, hit the social medias and continue to drive and get people to take a look at what you're drawing and then go from there, right? So that's awesome. But then there's that sort of that lore of, going back and getting the comic, and well, we probably won't be able to buy the hardcover anymore, but at least some of the stuff is available online where you can read through apps and stuff, where they're where you have that opportunity to do that. So it's good.
Yeah. I think by now just about everything I publish has come out in trades, because I get royalty statements every so often. You made $14 from this and $12 from that. But I mean, by now, I think just about everything I've done has been, bases have all been covered. They've been all reprinted in trades. And that was another delivery method that I've heard over the last few years. It's kind of like the idea of the Netflix method of, let's film 12 episodes and people will sit down and watch the whole thing in a weekend and just binge. That's become the popular delivery method. The standard film isn't as popular anymore, especially this last couple, year and a half. Everybody's been home all the time, so right. that it's taken a while. But the studios and the other Amazon and all them, they've kind of figured out this is what people want, and so also that's why it's the idea of you buy this trade paperbacks, or I have like the Doctor Strange omnibus. There's a couple of those. It's like a phone. Oh, what's a phone book? I mean, it's a phone book of stories, and that's, again, you can binge on that. So it's become more popular that way. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know you're short on time, and I know we gotta get you on the road here.
Yeah, I've got to get on, and I've got a couple things to finish today. But heck, later on, and down the road a little piece, I'd be happy to come back and talk some more. And I'm usually not at a loss for, even though I don't necessarily know a lot about what's going on, I can still talk about it.
Oh no, that's fantastic. We're enjoying it. For myself, I'm enjoying it. Just going back over your history of all the storyboard work you're doing. Well, everyone out there, he did Gothica. Of course, he did Battlefield Earth, but you did both. X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men Days Future Past, some TV shows. Let me just see if there's anything else. Oh well, of course, Doctor Strange tie-in.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the comics of Doctor Strange and then the DC stuff that you've also done. So it's great to be able to get this opportunity to chat with you. It's been lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And maybe down the road, I'll be able to let you know what I've been doing this summer. A couple of small bits, little tiny pieces you'll see in these couple of, in one movie and another series, a couple of things. So that it's kind of fun, you just get calls out of the blue. There's a series called Future Man. I don't know if you know that one.
No, not yet, but
Future Man. It's the second series, and I did a whole bunch of visuals for that. There's a new Home Alone movie that was made last year.
Oh,
and for that, I did a few things. I did mostly, there's a toy train in the movie. And the kid has the train. And so they do some bits with the train. And there's also a children's book about the train. So I drew that and I designed the train, Somebody made the model and did it, but, I cooked up the idea. So if you see the movie, that's my train.
There you go.
It's a far cry from Spider-Man, but, you never know what you're going to get asked to do in movies,
Yeah.
Republic of Sarah, that's another new show coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I did a couple of little things for that, and so you just never know.
yeah. We'll definitely stay tuned, and hopefully we can get you back on after some of the other things come out, and we can dive into some of those things. That'd be awesome.
I'm working on a large graphic novel now called Toby's War. That's 200 pages, so
wow.
It's a fair bit of time to complete it, and that's also what I'm working on a regular basis, weekly. I'm doing as much as I can manage, so that's going to take a bit longer, but that's a fun story, and we can delve into that later. It starts in World War II, so and it has this kind of a like Narnia / apocalyptic zombie feel. It's that kind of updated story of jumping to the other world kind of thing. It's that feel, but it has a great human element to the story, which I really like. So there is that one, and again, we'll so let's do this again soon. And it's been great talking with both of you and answering some questions.
And one quick thing before you get out of here. I just want to say, Marvel, if you are watching this, hire him to do any visual concept in any movies with the Juggernaut, because he did the Juggernaut perfectly. As a fan, that Juggernaut that he did on that cover looks like the Toy Biz figure. It is perfect, and he should be the visual concept artist for Juggernaut. Thank you, Marvel. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to try to put a pitch for Doctor Strange 3 with the Juggernaut.
Yes.
That would be great.
Yes.
Then you got to figure out who's going to play Juggy.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah. Well, most likely be a voice actor.
You can put the helmet on, you can be him.
Yeah, there you go. It'd be like Thanos, how they did Thanos.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And you've got the Joe Thornton beard, which is also pretty good. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
He's a hockey player. He's like 40. He's been playing with Toronto, and his beard is just... Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
You've got the Joe Thornton beard. Or Grizzly Adams, that's another. You'd be fighting grizzly bears, and with your metal helmet.
There you go.
Well,
it's all good.
Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on. And if you want to tell anybody where they can find you, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I have a Facebook fans page called Fans of Geoffrey Isherwood, and I have a website which is I think it's Geoffrey Isherwood's full name, jeffreyisherwood.ca. So we don't update that too often, but I have commission rates there. And yes, I do commissions on a regular basis. And now with this storyboard job I just accepted, that's going to keep. I'm going to be solidly in for the summer, I think. So unfortunately, my list, which is starting to get a bit longer, and we moved recently, and that slowed things down. I hate keep making people wait. So, but I'm trying to get to those as well. It's just a lot of stuff happening. But so I do those as well, and Facebook Messenger. I don't really do Twitter much. I really just do Facebook, and I'm not really a social media butterfly, as it were, so much. I have to have a presence there, but I feel like I'm more the producer. I should leave all that publicity to somebody else who knows what they're doing. So
we'll
anyway, there was
definitely showcase your work, within our Marvel group, and and continue to stay in touch with you. So it's awesome. Thank you for.
Thanks for having me and seeking me out and everything. It's terrific. A lot of fun.
Thank you.
Okay, and see you later.
See you later.
Okay, bye.